The bloody war in Syria has been ongoing for years, with many different factions involved, with several nations supporting non-state actors in proxy wars that have also resulted in direct conflict between nations. The country remains a war-torn and divided nation, with outside special interests being the main driving factor that have essentially destroyed the country and much of its infrastructure. The so-called Western coalition headed up by the United States have multiple objectives in Syria, among them removing Syrian President Bashar al-Assad from power, in addition to securing Syrian natural resources such as oil and gas reserves, all under the false pretext of fighting the war on terror. So far, they have not been able to remove Assad from power, but according to the Secretary General of the Lebanese Hezbollah, the United States is currently attempting to take control of Syria's oil and gas reserves east of the Euphrates, in the predominantly Kurdish-held area of Syria. The Kurds are just one faction that the United States is backing, while the U.S. has been able to establish several illegal military bases in this region. In a major development that is not getting much coverage in the press, Russia and Syria have signed a major energy deal, giving the Russians control of Syria's oil and gas reserves under the condition that the badly damaged infrastructure be rebuilt and restored. Russia's efforts to rebuild Syria's infrastructure will no doubt be a dangerous and very large-scale operation costing tens of billions of dollars, which includes restoring pipelines and other infrastructure. While Russia appears to have won the war for Syria's oil and gas reserves on paper, the Western nations have a history of not playing by the rules and may target and/or sabotage the Russian operations while defending and trying to expand their stronghold east of the Euphrates, which is evident by the recent U.S. airstrikes killing pro-Assad forces, including Russian contractors in the region.
We will use force if our troops are threatened, and that was clearly the case.
While it's too early to tell which factions will come out on top, as the war in Syria is far from over, as tensions and bloodshed continue to increase, many would argue that perpetual war has no winners. One thing is for certain, there are victims, many of them innocent, who pay the heaviest price, and that is the Syrian people, as countless lives have been lost at the hands of all sides who are engaged in this conflict.
One of the problems, not specifically on this issue, just in general, let's put it this way, money trumps peace sometimes. In other words, commercial interests are very powerful interests throughout the world.
Stay tuned to newsbud.com as we will be publishing a report focused on the covert battles for control over Syria's natural resources, as neither the Israeli, U.S., or Russian media propagandists are fully disclosing the real agendas driving this conflict. Now let's take a quick look at what NewsBud subscribers got just in the last week for their monthly subscription. Our Russia expert breaks down the latest in Syria while addressing the question, who is afraid of peace in Syria? Our China expert exposes the failures of U.S. diplomacy at the Olympics, plus the latest news and analysis of key geopolitical strategies and alliances that are shaping U.S. policy and Asia as a whole. Kurt Nimmo documents the hypocrisy and war crimes by Western governments as they attempt to frame Syria for using chemical weapons. Our constitutional expert documents how the judicial system and the U.S. government as a whole is now working against the interest of the American people. NewsBud is only funded through your donations and subscriptions, and we really do count on your support to make what we do here possible. A monthly subscription costs practically nothing and will provide you with unlimited access to all of the amazing content produced each and every day by our distinguished team of experts. This week on NewsBud's Geopolitical Report with Kurt Nimmo, Nimmo documents the hypocrisy and the war crimes of the West, specifically by the United States and Israel in their use of chemical weapons, while the West tries to frame the Syrian government for using chemical weapons to justify further military action in Syria to ultimately topple the Syrian government, just as the West has done to many other nations.
The latest effort by the U.S. to pin consecutive disputed chemical attacks on Syria is reminiscent of the weapons of mass destruction pretext used before Bush invaded Iraq. If Haley was sincerely interested in holding nations to account, she would indict the United States and Israel. Both have used chemical weapons numerous times with far more devastating results than the supposed chemical attacks in Syria.
Nimmo also exposes the weaponized propaganda of the West from the corporate press to the white helmets, which spread disinformation and sell the lies and the wars to the public. Nimmo's full video is exclusively available for members at newsbud.com. Non-members can watch it now at NewsBud Vimeo On Demand. This week, one of NewsBud's military veterans wrote an exclusive article titled The Out-of-Control U.S. War Industry. Now let's quickly look at the first paragraph. The U.S. war industry is out of control. It has been since 1945. It finances political campaigns, thereby purchasing loyalty from elected officials. It funds the D.C. think tanks, thereby controlling the narrative and ensuring new threats are always hyped. It advertises on national media, thereby forestalling the slim chance a corporate journalist might bravely challenge the need for endless war. It is up to an educated citizenry to remedy this situation. Understanding the following contracts, which have been issued since the start of 2018, is a crucial part of forming an educated, mobilized citizenry. In this must-read report, Sorensen exposes the out-of-control intelligence community and the military-industrial complex, documenting the contracts worth billions of tax dollars that keep the war machine running, while millions of Americans and people around the world live in poverty. And don't forget the countless innocent lives that are taken by these weapons of war that your tax dollars are paying for. The full report is open to all, and the only place you can find it is newsbud.com. On NewsBud's Russian Newspaper Monitor, Professor Kovacevic deconstructs the headlines each and every week of the Russian newspapers while providing expert analysis. In this week's episode, Professor Kovacevic breaks down the escalations in Syria, including the recent downing of the Russian warplane and the ongoing investigation that points towards the United States. Plus, Professor Kovacevic not only covers what the motivations are for those involved in the Syrian conflict, but what we can expect to see in the near future as the tensions and bloodshed continue to increase. Plus, Kovacevic covers the recent crackdown on corruption in Russia as the presidential elections are rapidly approaching and much more.
In the end, this comes down to what kind of legacy Putin wants to leave. Does he want to be remembered as somebody who cleansed Russia of corrupt political oligarchs, or as somebody who just pretended to be doing that, whereas in reality he was not only one of them, but their sponsor and commander-in-chief, taking the largest piece of the pie.
This is must-see news and analysis that you will not find anywhere but newsbud.com. So become a member today. And if you want to preview our work, check us out at NewsBud Vimeo On Demand. This week on NewsBud's China Watch, Peter Lee exposes the failures of U.S. diplomacy at the Olympics. Peter also breaks down the newest moves by the United States to establish military alliances in Asia to counter China. Plus, he deconstructs the sloppy coverage by the U.S. mainstream pundits, as their ignorant comments have angered many.
American pundits are mystified why South Korea isn't lining up with the United States and Japan on North Korea policy. American obliviousness was summed up by a comment on NBC's Olympic coverage that aroused fury in South Korea. As the Japanese team marched into the stadium, Joshua Cooper Ramo, NBC's designated Asian know-it-all, declared, "Japan, a country which occupied Korea from 1910 to 1945. But every Korean will tell you that Japan is a cultural and technological and economic example that has been so important to their own transformation." Well, Korea Times covered Ramo's remarks under headline, "NBC Analyst Under Fire in Korea for Ignorant Comment." Koreans are angry because the U.S. strategic position in Asia since World War II is founded on backing Japan and screwing Korea. This isn't just ancient history, it's white-hot current politics, fueling a Korean craving for justice for the suffering they endured at the hands of Japan, and due to America's continuing collusion with Japan in denying it. U.S.-Japanese collusion has deepened, not diminished, with the administration of Shinzo Abe, a conservative and a historical revisionist determined to celebrate Japan's imperial achievements in the 20th century, not apologize for them. And he has positioned himself as America's indispensable ally as the U.S. struggles with its declining clout in Asia. I provide detailed historical background and context in my extended audio program, Shame in San Francisco, America's Betrayal of Korea. Thanks to the generosity of NewsBud, it's now out from behind the paywall for listeners around the world who want to understand the profound problems in the U.S.-Japan-Korea triangular relationship.
Find out all this and much more exclusively at newsbud.com. Non-members can watch this and all of Newsbud's exclusive videos at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. And as Peter pointed out, Newsbud just released a full episode of Asia Brief that was previously only available for members. Be sure to check it out and sign up today for full access to hundreds of exclusive videos and articles. This week, Newsbud's constitutional attorney John W. Whitehead documents how the judicial system in the United States has been compromised and is no longer serving the people, instead serving the establishment and the police state, disregarding the rights and due process guaranteed by the Constitution. As Whitehead points out, no one is coming to save us, not the courts, not the legislatures, and not the president. It's up to we the people to effect change. Find out how we can turn this around exclusively at newsbud.com for members. Non-members can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. Newsbud also offers our own aggregated news, and we call it Sibel's Picks, and it's the best source for aggregated news online. Newsbud's founder and editor Sibel Edmonds handpicks each story herself, and you get about 90 links a week of the most important and blacked out stories. Now, if you're not already a member yet, why not join today and give us a shot? There is no contract or obligation, and it costs practically nothing. Plus, your subscription allows this independent news organization to continue to operate. Your subscription also provides you with unlimited access to all of our exclusive content we produce each and every week, including all of the videos, articles, interviews, roundtables, and much more. You will not be disappointed. For all of us here at Newsbud, thank you for your support and stay tuned for next week's lineup.